Thank you. Welcome to the Select Board meeting of October 10th, 2023. I call this meeting to order. This meeting of the Hopkinton Select Board is being held both in person and remotely using the video conference platform Zoom. All members that are attending tonight are present in the meeting room. So all members participating in the meeting are present in the meeting room. The public has the option of attending in person here at Town Hall or via Zoom using the link posted in this meeting's agenda. This meeting is being recorded. So I'll entertain the motion to move into executive session. Shahadul, if you want to make it.
I move to enter executive session pursuant to MGL C30A 21A, Purpose 3, to consider strategy with respect to litigation in Casarino versus Morrissey, Middlesex Superior Court, action number 2381 CV 01299, because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the board. Pursuant to MGL C30A 21A, Purpose 3, to consider strategy with respect to negotiations with the fire union. Pursuant to MGL C30A 21A, Purpose 6, to consider the purchase, lease, sale, or value of real estate in relation to properties in the vicinity of Town Hall and South Street and parcels owned by Umina of Chestnut Street, because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the board. Approval of executive session minutes to allow Normal Kumalo and Elaine Lazarus to participate in the executive session and to reconvene in open session at the conclusion of executive session.
Second.
All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. We have to do roll call.
Mary Jo, sorry. Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
Amy Rogobush, yes.
Edwin and yes?
Muriel Kramer, yes. And I was all excited because we don't have to do started. Okay. So our first order of business is public forum where residents are invited to share ideas, opinions, or ask questions regarding town, I'm sorry, we usually start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I skipped right over that. My apologies. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Now, residents are invited to share ideas, opinions, or ask questions regarding town government, and we usually ask people to keep their comments to about 2 minutes. Do we have anybody here tonight that wants to make a comment to public session? Do we have anybody on Zoom?
I can't see it.
Oh, do we have anybody up on Zoom?
Should take these off.
Anyone on the Zoom?
Do we have anybody on Zoom?
With the hand raised?
Okay, thank you.
Hey, can I make a comment?
You can, of course.
I just want to remember one of our town hall members, former members, who passed away this week, was Phyllis Smith, and she worked in the collector treasurer's office for
she passed away.
Maureen and for many people for quite a few years, and she'll be missed. That's all.
Thank you. I kind of wanted to just say, too, that I know that I am not alone. I know that we all share sending our thoughts and solidarity with everybody who is facing a lack of safety. The events in Israel are completely unsettling and frightening, and the world is a scary place. So we just send our best thoughts out. Okay. Our next item is the consent agenda. We have the minutes from September 19th and October 3rd. We have a gift to accept of $375 from the Children of Legacy Farms that they raised via their lemonade stand. I just love this every time it comes up on our agenda. It's amazing. And then we have the Marathon Fund requests for two requests, $9,000 towards 6 scholarships to Hopkinton residents graduating from high school in the spring of 2024, valued at $1,500 each, and $15,500 towards a project to update the lighting in the main auditorium at the Hopkinton Cultural Arts Center. The total cost of the project is estimated to be $99,000. The remaining funds will be coming from the Capital Fund Drive and Maintenance Fund grants. The present balance of that fund is $213,912.25. Wow. So do we, I know, I was a little surprised by that. Do we want to pull any of these items out for separate discussion?
I just
I
had a
just want to
comment.
congratulate the children. I remember having my own lemonade stand years ago, and I think this is quite an achievement for them.
It's really a lovely thing that they do. Mr. Kamalo, did you have something you wanted to make sure you said?
Yes, a couple of things. The first is in regard to the Marathon Fund request. Item number 2,
Yeah.
applying Marathon funds towards building repairs is an unusual request.
Did you think it might not be allowed by their charter, their charter statement? Or-
Yeah, I think the main focus in the past has been scholarships and any activities that are related to health and sporting activities.
They've done programs at the senior center. They've done band jackets or football jackets or whatever. I mean, it very often has to do with exercise and
Yeah, but we did build a stage for them, the movable stage for them at the Art Center many years ago. We did contribute to that. And we've contributed to the fencing for the ball field at Tommy, in honor of Tommy McIntyre. And, we've done projects that come, we have done jackets, we've done jewelry for our state, kids who won state championships and things like that, but they're a priority. but we have done things like this before on the Marathon Committee.
So do you want to pull it out and vote it separately?
Through the chair, based on the fact that in the past, the funds have been applied towards a stage.
Yeah, it was a movable stage or a stage for the Arts Cultural Council. We donated money to build that for them.
My concern goes away.
Okay.
And I just want to, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, I don't want to pull out anything. I just want to thank and applaud the children of Legacy Farms for their contribution. That's really a great gesture. And also to Marathon Fund Committee for providing the service and the scholarships.
I just want to say, I remember when the amount of money we had would give a $500 scholarship and then a $1,000 scholarship, and now we're up to $1,500, and I just think that's great.
I just wanted to know, and I've just brought this up before, that the Marathon Fund requests we get look like they've been photocopied many, many times, and they're handwritten, and they're really difficult to read, so I would really appreciate if, and the town staff said they'll work with the committee to get a better form that's more readable. Right.
Yeah, no, I agree. The Legacy Farms kids make me smile every single time when this comes up. It's amazing, right? I also wanted to ask just about process. So understanding that it is a little different that we have a project for lighting, but it has been something that has been done before. Mary Jo, what exactly is the process? I think they have to get competing or bids, right? Is that right? Or they have to have...
Yeah, they have to give estimates, and they used to have 3 bids, and it doesn't always hold through because sometimes you can't get them. But when we did things for the, we've done things for the Family Day, the Family Fun Day, a lot of things for that, and we needed to know different things, and we've hired police officers for various functions. We have done an awful lot of things for different reasons and different things. And yeah, when we're going out to bid for something, we do ask them to bring in 3 bids. The after prom stuff, we've asked 3 bids on the stuff that they want to bring in. So that's basically the rule. I mean, sometimes you can't get 3 bids depending on what the project is, but...
Yeah, I don't think the forms say any of that either. That's the other thing, is that approved by, the Board of Selectmen. They need a new form.
Yes, they do.
Okay, does it make sense to have like standard information that needs to be on this for us to approve it? Here we are pulling out an item for discussion without even saying that we're doing it.
These people that are on this committee do a really good job, and they interview everybody that comes before them, and they don't make easy decisions. And
when we've asked, they have provided more detail.
In doing their job.
Yeah, I think we could, maybe one of us could, I could take an action item to make a new form, which I will do, right? And we could have a checkbox, right? That 3 estimates had been considered. Is there anything else that they do as part of their process?
There are a lot of things that they do. Everybody that comes before them has a reason for the money, and sometimes it's a school and they don't have 3 bids. They got swim uniforms for the school. The school tells them what they pay for the swim uniforms, and they give it to them, or they give part of it to them. And I know we've had. They were in pretty bad shape, actually, and sometimes the students come before them with a project, and it's very different. It's just not absolutely cut and dry.
Okay, all right. I don't want to, unless anybody is opposed, we'll go ahead and vote the consent agenda, but just thinking in terms of, especially for big items for next time. Okay, can I have a motion on the consent agenda?
I move the motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Now we have appointments to boards and committees.
If I may, I'm sorry I wasn't here for the open forum.
Oh, you had,
I do have an open forum.
Yes. Oh, okay.
And it's through the Public Works Director. Can you read it?
Hi, everyone. I just didn't get you quick enough and you were rolling through it.
Sorry.
No worries. So I haven't met y'all formally yet. I'm Carrie Reed, DPW Director, and I just wanted to give you guys an update since I'm sure you've been hearing about it. We left a press release that we've had issues with discolored water. So hopefully you've seen the press release right now, but we just wanted to come in and let you know that we're aware of the issue. We've been trying to respond to the residents as they call in. It's been kind of hard to keep up with it. So we're trying to get the information out as best we can. The water department's been working diligently to try to address the issue. We're working with an engineer to try to come up with a longer term solution. And we just want to let residents know that it is safe, although it's a little unnerving to see that water come out like that, and to flush their pipes. We try to give them warning to not use it for washing and stuff like that, and that if anybody continues to have problems, to contact us. But I wanted to come here to give you guys an opportunity in case folks have been calling you, and just to let you know that we are aware, we're working on it, and we're trying our best.
I appreciate that. Do we know why? What is the source, or is it different every time?
It is, well, we know we have high iron and manganese in our water source, and we think that the sediment is in the pipes as a result of that. And so then when we have like high demand, or in this case, when the power went out at the Ashland treatment plant, and it went down and back up again, it stirs up all the sediment, and then it creates this kind of slug of discolored water that goes through. We're just experiencing it more frequently than we have, and our regular flushing program isn't dealing with it as well as it has in the past, so we're trying to look for a better solution. But we know that a few neighborhoods are more effective than others, and we're trying to keep it isolated at this point, but it's still a very complicated system, so we're trying our best to try to figure out exactly what's going on.
Appreciate it. Anybody else have any quick questions?
I just have a quick one, which is, do you have an ETA in when it might be cleared out and back to normal?
No, I don't. So as far as we know right now, the issue that we've just had is pretty much the water's running clear from what we've heard, and the complaints have reduced, but we don't know, when it can get stirred back up again in the pipes. We were working on a program with our engineering, but it's going to take a while, and now we're getting into colder weather when it's not as conducive for flushing, so we might have to wait till the spring to do a more comprehensive program.
Mary Jo, did you have a question?
Well, I was just going to say, about how many hydrants are you flushing?
Honestly, I don't know the number. We're focusing on a neighborhood, so it's Thayer Heights, Blueberry Lane, Gibbons Smith Street, a couple of that area. I don't know the number of, but that's the area that's been affected the most.
So this is certainly a big concern for the people who are affected. Do you have any suggestion, anything we could do better, or we can get some help to do it better?
We're continuing to look at that, and then we'll look at it as we go. Later on, your guys' agenda is talking about budget, so where we can put the investment. As you all are very much aware, we are very focused on, as you put in your strategic plan, safe, reliable drinking water. So we've got some long-term solutions. It's just the shorter-term solutions. And of course, the first question is, when are you going to fix it? And it's not as easy as some of the other things that we do, like fixing potholes. But so we have a few of the longer-term solutions, like the PFAS filtration. Filtration will always help. The connection with MWRA, but we don't have any good for short-term.
Yeah, we do appreciate the residents' concerns, the ones that are most affected. It's pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for your
Thank you for
time.
the update and your work.
All right, appointments for boards and committees. We have one vacancy on the Commission on Disability and one applicant. We have 3 vacancies on the Youth Commission and 1 applicant. We have 3 vacancies on the Veterans Celebration Committee and 1 applicant. And we have 2 vacancies on the Hockanton Historic District Commission, and we have 1 applicant. Do we?
We have to postpone that last one because the 2 vacancies are specific to a representative of the Board of Realtors and a resident of the district. So we're waiting to hear back from the Board of Realtors, correct? And if they don't have anyone, we can appoint a different person.
I gotcha. And so have we reached out to the Board of Realtors?
I think going to.
Okay.
So the last one is
Postponed?
postponed.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Do we have anybody here who is applying for any of the positions? Come on down. Anybody else? Do we have anybody raising their hand on Zoom? Yes.
Yes, would you be willing to make me a panelist so that I can see when people are on Zoom? Okay.
So welcome. Introduce yourself, please, and tell us what board or committee you would like to be working on.
My name is Thomas Pan, and I've been living in Hopkinton for around 7 years now. I would like to apply to the Youth Commission because I would like to express the Asian community more in Hopkinton. Last year, when I went to the Lunar Festival, Lunar New Year Festival for our Chinese community, I didn't see many people that weren't Chinese. So I'd like to raise awareness and maybe communicate with the Chinese leaders to hopefully bring more people from other backgrounds into and experience the Lunar New Year.
I appreciate that a lot. That's really wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah.
So thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Thomas?
My only question was that there are 3 different terms we could offer you, one ending in 24, one ending in 2025, one ending in 2026, and I don't know what you're in high school, you're a high school student, right?
Yeah, I'm a freshman, so.
You're a freshman, so you could even take the 3, would you like the 3-year term then? Okay.
I'm going to tell you, a freshman. All right.
That's nice. Yeah.
Congratulations. We had some gunners on that committee.
Thank you for stepping forward.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And thank you for introducing yourself. It's not necessarily easy to do, so nice job.
I was in the Lunar Festival last year. It was wonderful, and looking forward to the next one.
Okay, do we want to, does anybody have any objection to voting the applicants where we don't have competition for the slots? So we appreciate people stepping forward. So I'll entertain a motion to appoint Praveen Hariharan to the Commission on Disability to the term expiring June 30th, 2024.
I move to appoint Praveen Hariharan to the Commission on Disability to a term expiring June 30, 2024.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? I'll entertain a motion to appoint Thomas Pan to the Youth Commission to the term expiring June 30th, 2026.
I move to appoint King Shu Thomas Pan to the Youth Commission to a term expiring June 30, 2026.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? I'll entertain a motion to appoint John Cardillo to the Veterans Celebration Committee.
I move to appoint John Cardillo to the Veterans Celebration Committee to a term expiring June 30, 2026.
Second?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Many appreciations to everybody who applied. I look forward to that celebration and more good works. So thank you very much. Okay, we're early for the town employee appointment. Do we have people that we need? Okay. Then we can probably do that.
Connor's here, maybe we could do the next one.
I think everybody's here for the town.
Town-
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you
Yeah.
said no.
Oh,
Yeah. I thought I understood yes. Welcome.
I was calling on Christine.
Kristen, this is your moment to shine. Mr. Kamel.
Yes, with the chair's permission, I'm respectfully requesting the board confirm the town manager's appointment of Lorraine DiLello as the grant coordinator for the Massachusetts Collaborative for Action, Leadership, and Learning Substance Misuse Prevention Grant Program. It's a very long title. In short, it's called the Mass Call 3 Part B. Two things to highlight for the community. One, Lauren, in fact, has been part of our organization for the last couple years. She successfully worked with us on Part A of this program, and without her effort, commitment, and dedication, we would not have been able to qualify successfully for Part B. So thank you for getting us to that point. And then secondly, I also want to commend the community for its investment in making sure that we remain focused in fighting substance misuse. Those efforts are incomplete without the participation of the civic groups in this community, the coalitions that we've built successfully, and obviously the work of the Youth Commission and the Youth and Family Services Department, and the leadership that they both provide has been key and crucial for our success. So, Lauren, the bar has been set high. We are so excited that you are joining us to get to the next phase.
Thank you.
Dawn, do you want to say something?
Oh, sure. Do I not talk? I'm really grateful to Lauren and her hard work. The Part A of the grant was a very part-time grant, but you'd never know that Lauren was a part-time employee. She entered day one working hard to engage the HOP Coalition and engage new members. And some of her wonderful achievements have been to bring new parents on of young children, because the younger we start, we prevent harm so much younger. And these are youth prevention grants. And it's timely that we're here today because President Biden just proclaimed October Youth Substance Use Prevention Month, so it's a nice time for this to be happening for you. And she also brought in the recovery community and made new connections for us in treatment, which isn't exactly primary prevention, but still so needed. And so we don't want to leave behind the folks that have active substance use disorders. We want to journey and link arms with them. And Lauren has done a really great job to bring people on board to the coalition in that regard as well. And this grant is a regional grant. And we only needed to engage 3 other communities, and Lauren engaged 4. So it's a little insurance there, but it's also really wonderful that because of who she is and how she comports herself, she built relationships rather naturally with other prevention partners, and they were more than willing to join in this work together with us. And so we're at the baby stages of that right now.
Thank you for the kind words. We will fortunately be moving forward with 4 other communities, Holliston, Medway, Medfield, and Wayland. And so we will be working together in collaboration to make sure that we can have prevention efforts and, keeping youth substance free in all of our communities. Our youth do cross borders, and, we want to make sure that, we have evidence-based practices everywhere so that our efforts are widespread.
Well, congratulations. Tell us a little bit about like the timing and the size of the grant, and are there prescribed activities, or is it sort of open to building the network that you really want to build?
Sure. What I really appreciate about this grant is that it allows you to use the data within the community to, which is what we're going to be doing for the next 12 to 18 months, is to take a look at what is really needed in the community and see where the gaps are. So it's not, creating a program based on what we say we necessarily want, but seeing where the need is. And so we want to say, see based on the data of Hopkinton and Wayland and Medfield and all the different communities, and say where are the needs within all of those communities. And after we take a look at that and really draw on our resources and create programs from that. So
that's wonderful. So I do a lot of work with substance use disorder in my work, and we always talk about gaps being the biggest opportunities, right? So it's not that we have to know our strengths. You leverage your strengths too. We know what we're doing well, and we know what we're doing right, and we want to build from there. We don't want to scrub everything and start fresh, but finding out where those gaps are that people experience, right? That people tell us or show us through the data that they experience. That's really where we want to start working the hardest. So I'm thrilled to hear it.
Yeah, I think it would be really excited to highlight the strengths in this community as well, because there are a lot of strengths, and that's what our youth isn't always aware of, is that it's not always the teenagers who are out drinking, it's the teenagers who aren't, and it's the teenagers who aren't using substances that can kind of help lead the way. So
yeah, I think they all have a voice somewhere right there, so it's important. So, well, thank you very much. We're excited to be confirming the town manager's appointment and seeing the work that you do. So, can I have a motion?
Sure. I move to confirm the town manager's appointment of Lauren DeLillo as a full-time grant coordinator in the Youth and Family Services Department.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So if you'd like some flowers.
Yes, Amy brought lavender bunches. You should all take one. Yes, take one.
So much. Do we want to do a photo or no?
Is that
Photo or no?
Oh, yes, a photo. Thank you. We always force you to take a photo. We don't really force you, but we really dramatically encourage this. No, I don't. I agree. No, I totally agree. Thank you. I mean it. So we should yeah. I'm going to grab the ladder and roll I want sauce. Yeah. All right, who's taking our picture? Lazarus. That's what I think happened. Okay, Mr. Deegan, our town clerk. So we just have, I think, really an announcement about a vacancy, Connor?
Yeah, just an announcement, and then I'm just going to clarify, because I managed to get in touch with, it's been kind of a back and forth with the town attorney to figure out what's the best
Great.
course of action. So we did have a couple of candidates who were nominated by the HRTC the last time that this appointment came up. Both were appointed, and it was found out afterwards that one was actually unenrolled. So based on conversations with town council and with the elections division, we've found that as long as it's not offsetting the party balance and everyone's essentially consented to it, then we're good. So we should be okay with that person. We have a third. But it would still be advisable for us to get at least one Republican onto the committee, so we need to go with the next step of sending a letter to request nominees from the HRTC. They can give us up to 3 nominees, and at that point, they have a certain number of days to do it before we can open up to anybody who is enrolled as a Republican to do so.
Oh, okay, so you couldn't just log online and to the...
Not right now. Right now, it would have to be coming from the chair of the RTC to let us know that these are the nominees that their committee has put forward and the names they put forward.
All right, so there's up to 3?
They can give up to 3 for the position, so there's only 1 opening remaining. And we haven't had a chance to give an oath of office to the other person who has been appointed yet. But now with Veda Kerr stepping down, we have that opening for the Republican seat.
Okay, all right.
So that will cover us for this special town election that we'll have with this third person that's not been sworn in yet.
Yeah, and more importantly, for all the nomination papers and petitions that we have circulating right now, with everything for nomination papers for November, but then petitions for November as well, nomination papers for the presidential primary. So we have a lot going on in the office right now that we need sign-offs from registrars.
Okay, and this person, although they've not been sworn in, they're willing to do it, right?
I just touched base with Jim to see if we can get his contact info. I don't have a way to get in touch with this individual, so I'm gonna reach out. I think his name is Joe.
Yep.
So I'm gonna reach out to Joe about getting him in and kind of getting him started on what we're gonna do.
What's his last name?
Bruce Show, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Okay,
All right. I don't think I have the email.
So you reached out to Jim directly also about this whole issue, and he's aware, and hopefully he is on it.
Yeah, he's aware, so he knows it's coming. The timer for if we have to post it as the town instead starts ticking after we send the letter. That's why we're informing you of it.
Yep.
But he knows that he can start the process a little bit ahead of us starting the process if he needs to.
Great. And what's the deadline, remind me, that we would have, once we send the letter?
45 days.
45 days, okay. All right, and then when do you need somebody in position? Like immediately?
I mean, so as long as we have the 3, which we have right now, then we're good for the time being.
Okay.
But I think as we go into the new year, we'll definitely want to have a full board because you never know what primary season and a presidential election cycle will throw at you.
Okay, well, thanks for being here.
Yeah, for the open positions, are you reaching out to the Republican committee, or what is the process to help?
So the first step is that the select board requests nominees from the Republican town committee. So that's the next step. I have already reached out to the chair of the Republican town committee to inform him that there is a vacancy. And I know that Veda reached out to him as well when she was giving her resignation to give him a heads up as well. So that's where we're at now. It's just the step of the letter, which in the past, the town manager's office has been extremely helpful in getting that all set up and sent out in a really timely fashion. So I have no doubt that'll be quick, but it's just kind of keeping it on your radar so that when we get nominees, we can get them appointed quickly and keep the process flowing.
Great.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do we have to take a vote on that, or it's just it's a typical thing?
You're good at this point. You don't need to do anything yet.
Okay. And the next item on the agenda is special town meeting. We'll preview articles for the November 13th special town meeting warrant.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I have been in conversations with John Graziano, the chair of ESBC2, with regard to moving forward the article for the Elmwood School replacement project. We are in the process of checking with town council to make sure who the proponent is going to be. We were looking at either the select board or the ESBC2. Through Elaine's office, we've confirmed that the last time this town considered the marathon school, ESBC, the committee was the proponent. And so I'm going to convey that to John and then report back at the select board meeting next week.
Okay.
We have, in addition, we have also received 2 articles. One is from the Hopkinton Sustainable Green Committee, looking at the adoption of the enhanced stretch code. And then the second one is a citizen petition focusing on eliminating the partisan electoral process in Hopkinton. So far, 3 articles.
3 articles. And what's the deadline? Dare I ask?
Is it the part? We'll tell you in 1 second.
Due to at the close of business on October 18th.
18 next week.
It's the 18th.
Okay. Next Wednesday. Plenty of time. Okay, is there anything we need to do more on that, or is that just an update?
Just an update.
Okay. And the citizens who are putting forward the petition understand the process, that they'll be proposing it in the proponents on town meeting?
I'm looking at the town clerk.
Just so they have everything they need to be prepared. I assume the answer is yes?
Yes, I've explained the process to them, and as of today, they have enough signatures to proceed onto the ballot, or onto the warrant. And I'll talk with them more about what they need to do. And they've been keeping in touch to make sure that they stay on the straight and narrow with the process.
Great. Thanks for your help.
And just to follow up, so besides our main warrant, we have one request that we saw on the email today, right?
That was the Green Committee, yeah.
There was another one brewing, or there is no other yet? Those are the only 2?
Yes, those are the only 2 additional.
So 3 total.
3 total.
Elementary school, nonpartisan elections, and the green energy code for the buildings.
Yeah, 3.
Okay.
Thank you.
But there could be more by now.
Special town meeting, preparing for Thanksgiving, everybody. Okay, great. We are a little ahead of schedule. Every time I say that, it goes awry. But the school committee, do you have everybody here that you expect to be here? If we started early, or do you want me to wait?
I think we're okay to start early.
Mr. Smiley, what do you think? Do we have everybody we need?
Mike Manning is going to be remote.
Oh.
Yeah, Mike Manning is going to be remote. I want to make sure he's live.
He's not on Zoom.
All right, let's press sprightly ahead. Sorry, that was a wonderful thought. Okay, we're going to scamper right ahead to your town manager FY24 goals. I'm looking.
Yes, I have submitted 3 draft goals for the board's consideration.
29, okay.
Yes. I included those goals in the meeting packet. They are:
Yep.
1, ensure the FY25 budget development delivers results for all residents through an equitable, inclusive, and accountable budget process. And then 2, in collaboration with Select Board, define, develop, and implement a bottom-up strategic plan process for the town. And then thirdly, collaborate with human resources in empowering and rebuilding our workforce through training and enhanced benefits. By way of explanation, I'm suggesting these 3 goals in recognition of 2 factors. 1, I'm looking for alignment with the goals that the Select Board set for FY24. I have also asked senior leaders to develop their goals and ensure that at least one of them does align with the goals that were set by the board. So this is for consistency, looking for alignment. And then the second reason, you will notice that the tone of the goals is focusing more on the soft side of our work. And that is driven largely by the vision that we have set for ourselves at Town Hall, namely that everyone has dignity. And so I believe those 3 goals align with the goals set by the Select Board and are also consistent with the vision that we have set. That's why the tone is more on the softer side, focusing more on process, equity, accountability, and so forth.
Great, thank you. Do you have any questions?
I like the goals, and thank you for clarifying those. I think this is very important, and how you are aligning it is really smart. One thing I was wondering, and maybe it's inclusive or included here, is one of our strategic goals is certainly to, improve and maintain the quality of service and quality of life for our residents. So that is something, across all your departments. How can we kind of tie it into the goals is one thing I was wondering. That is probably one I would be interested in kind of tying in or including in some ways.
Yeah, that's a good question. In fact, as senior leaders, we did have a workshop at which we really focused on alignment, and that goal is one of the goals that was common across different departments. What we're looking for is that the budget process will get us there. We will propose budgets that focus on maintaining the high quality of services that this community has enjoyed over time and expects to receive in the future. So how we do that is making sure that the budget that we move forward allows us to preserve the high quality of services. It also requires us. It also requires us to measure the quality of the services that we provide. And so you will see that in setting most of the departmental goals, we are asking the tough question, how do you actually measure what you're saying? And so you will get to the answer to your question through, 1, ensuring that the budget does support maintaining the high quality services, and then 2, measuring our outcomes.
No, thank you for the clarification. I was just wondering, I like keeping it 3 or 4. I don't know what the tradition has been. I think 3 mostly, right?
Yeah, 3 mostly.
Mostly, yeah. I was wondering if that is something you want to also elaborate a little bit, just to be clear on that, in terms of, because it is becoming such a, topic of discussion with our growth and all the challenges that we are having. And I'm sure you are, and I see that actually, that you have it in all your conversation, planning, and execution. I'd propose that somehow we include it in maybe the first objective as well, or if you prefer, a separate stretch goal. That would be just one comment I would add, but open for discussion.
Through the chair, what I was looking for today is agreement on the 3 goals, and you're absolutely correct. For goal number 1 of the measurable objectives would be ensuring that we maintain the high quality of services.
Thank you.
I also imagine that it will play very highly in the strategic plan
Actually, what I was thinking, yeah.
process, the development of the strategic plan process. Amy, do you have any questions?
I don't think I really do. I think these are good overall overarching goals. And I think the strategic plan is very important. We have not done that in a long time. So I think that's a good, and it takes a long time. So
Yeah, I think I'm excited about that, and I think we need to do it. Mary Jo?
No, I don't have any, no questions.
I'm actually...
Straightforward, and I couldn't do it, that's all.
I'm also pretty excited about the empowering and rebuilding our workforce. That is sort of the issue of our time. So I look forward to seeing how that plays, and I can imagine that that will also be part of the strategic plan building process as well, thinking about how we empower and rebuild and retain our workforce. Amen.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you need us to vote on them, or we have consensus and that's...
Anything, Elaine? I think we do have consensus. It's the 3 goals. I'll work on finalizing them with the chair.
Okay, great.
it is in our
Thank
motions
you.
document, but
Oh. Would you like a vote?
should be, there's a motion in our,
We'll take the motion. Thank you.
I think it would be good.
Yeah.
But I
I don't see
would,
any motion for that.
I don't either.
oh, town manager goals?
Oh, down at the bottom, at the very bottom. You are so right.
I move to approve the town manager's FY24 goals as discussed.
There's- All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you, as always, on that. I look forward to seeing how the strategic planning process plays out, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, it is 7:20. Is that the magic time? No, it's still 7:30. Okay. Maybe we can quickly get the police department update, Mr. Kamalo. The chief is not able to be here with us tonight, but he did send an update.
Yes, he did. Thanks to Chief Bennett, I'm reporting on the following. He did provide an update on, firstly, the discussion regarding the school resource officers. I'll read his email. I have met with Dr. Kavanaugh and a large group from her team. In that meeting was also Director Alcott and Youth and Family Services. Sergeant Van Ralten and SRO Santoro were also in attendance. All involved were very supportive of the SRO program and welcomed the opportunity to discuss the topic with the Select Board. All are in agreement to support a future appearance with the board.
Okay, did we have any target date? I don't think I saw that in here.
Yeah. We will work out with the chief in terms of when that presentation will be made to the Select Board. In fact, he also added that from the feedback and updates he has seen after the meeting, the large team is investing a good amount of time and resources into preparing for the appearance before the board. He's extremely grateful for all the work that is being done, especially during this extremely busy time of the year, ahead of special town meeting and during budget preparation season. And then the second update relates to the department review. Chief Moore has been working towards getting a vendor for this project. It's proved difficult given the tight timeline necessary He is making a recommendation that we consider one of the two entities that we asked Chief Moore to look into. We will therefore have a more detailed report for the board at your next meeting. However, heading to that meeting, it may be helpful today to hear from the board of your thoughts, suggestions in terms of the scope of services.
Did you have any, I know we've talked about this a number of times. Do you have any suggestions for what to make sure, priorities to include in the departmental review?
I'll need to think about that a little bit. Okay. Go ahead, I'll listen to your comments.
Amy, did you have any?
So I'm not too familiar with the police department reviews, but I know an issue that we've had is retention of staff, so I guess that's an important issue, how we could improve that. And are there things we're missing or not, that we are not doing that we could be doing?
How about Mary Jo?
I don't have any comments on this. I think that this department's doing a good job. I can see where there's a lot of problems because we can't appoint people to positions, and we don't have many lieutenants, and we don't have many sergeants, and he doesn't have people to lean on, and I feel we put the chief in a tough position.
Okay, some of the things that I included in what I've said before, I'd like readiness to be part of the review. Leadership and succession planning. To Mary Jo's point, the lieutenant spot has been open for 2 years, and the deputy chief spot is open now too. So we'd like to have some thoughts and recommendations or strategies around making sure we're building the department in the strongest way possible. Team cohesion and development and departmental culture, I guess, all fall into that. Definitely would like to have community feedback and priorities, as well as police department employee feedback and recommendations or satisfaction. The school resource officer program doesn't necessarily have to be part of that review. I had it jotted down as my note, but as long as we're looking in that otherwise, unless for some reason it was important to, review that from like a policy standpoint. The police department's commitment to and engagement with town training on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging as a priority, I think is important to ask about. Hiring and promotional policies. I wanted to ask, as part of the review, to get some feedback from like towns, how the select board interchanges with the hiring and promotion policy, so we have something to think about in that regard. Recruitment and retention was certainly on my list. Transparency and policy implementation, and then progress on major initiatives as part of that as well. And then just, I know it's on our agenda too, I wanted to just ask the board to consider an interim position on the hiring and promotion considerations. As everyone knows, the select board schedules and holds a meeting at least once a month. For the hiring, in the interim of recommendations out of this, I propose that we hold a meeting a month or 2 weeks ahead of the public meeting intended to confirm the promotion. At this earlier meeting, the select board will consider the chief's recommendations, meet with the individual, the chief, the town manager, and a human resources representative in public or an executive session of the candidate's preference to discuss the promotion or the hiring, and then just have that as an interim position. I think that building in an opportunity for this board to ask questions about how the hiring or the promotion fits into the overall development of the department certainly makes sense to me. So just having one meeting before the sort of ceremonial vote.
Yeah, I do think that that's a good idea. I noticed that when we promoted the deputy chief last time, the ceremony was not the same day as we interviewed him. And I know it's not the same as sergeant, but I do think that's a good idea to separate the two events, the interview process and then the ceremony, the fun day.
Yeah, does that sound like something that's amenable to just build in a...
Yeah, no, I like the
one-step?
idea, and I also think that, because of some of the confusions in recent times, would it make sense to clarify some of these through our town council and make sure, we are all aligned on the process and on the policy explanations? Because we've heard some concerns around those, and I want to address and make sure that those voices are heard as well.
Sure. We're not talking about changing any part of the police department's process, just building an opportunity for the select board to exchange in that process before the ceremonial vote. Do we have consensus, or just a meeting ahead of the hiring or the promotional vote?
Right, yeah. I think that's always a good open discussion for us and for the town, for our fiduciary duty as well. I just want to make sure that we are aligned.
Yes, so...
And that's one thing we are
yes, so I have a lot of confidence that it's in keeping with our responsibilities, but we can get that clarified.
And in general, I think you pointed out quite a few good items and good insights, especially on the, I think, succession side. We talked about it and we discussed with the chief as well. We want to see more strength in overall to continue the excellence that our police department has. And in terms of, I think, our collaboration and support, we are always there to augment and enhance their skill, however we can help with the overall benefits and compensation. We have always looked at that, and we continue to want to make sure that we have the communication open with our police department. We are all in it together. So I like the idea of, regular cadence and having that communication and having the police chief providing insights and updates.
Great. Did you
One more thought. I was just going to say, we have not really done promotions since I've been on the board. The only one that we did was the deputy chief, and I was out sick that day, so I just watched that one on TV. So I assume that we do this, but I'm not sure, that the HR and the police chief would get up and explain the whole promotion process beforehand, before we would meet the nominees for...
Yeah, no, I think it would be a very collaborative process. I don't think we would meet in a vacuum, right? We would want to meet with the chief, with an HR person, probably the HR director, town manager, the candidate. If the candidate chose, we make somebody come in, but if they wanted to come in. And then just interact with the process and any questions we might have in terms of how it builds out the department or who the person is that we're hiring, if that is the case.
And I think it's been very helpful when Maria comes and explains the whole process, so I really like that.
Yeah. Great. Okay. All right. Oh, now we've gotten to 7:30. So, thank you all. Okay, 7:30 is the FY25 budget message, the joint meeting with the school committee and the appropriations committee. Do we have Mike Manning?
We do. He's on Zoom.
Okay. Can he be?
Yep, he's coming.
He's coming on. Okay. And then if everybody would like to come forward and dibs on the lavender if you get there to the table quicker. Thanks to Amy. So we have the school committee, we have the appropriations committee, and we have the select board in on the conversation. Yep. We can sit up here in Irfan's spot.
Yeah. Good morning. Hey.
See you, man.
And an old friend from not so long ago.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Okay, do you have to call your meeting to order?
Yes, so I would like to call the school committee over at 7:30.
And then, Mike, do you need to call your committee to order?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
So, call the meeting to order. It is 7:34.
All right. Mr. Kamala, do you want to kick us off?
Yes, thank you, through the chair. Lucas, slide 1. Great. I appreciate the opportunity to gather with members of the Select Board, the School Committee, and the Appropriation Committee in this public meeting tonight to briefly cover the financial starting point for the FY 2025 budget cycle. Again, it's the starting point of our budget cycle. Slide 2. The discussion paper that was distributed with the budget message starts with a preliminary set of projections for sources of funding that may be available to the town. Of course, those projections are necessarily based on estimates. Estimates that are likely to be adjusted and revised during the budget process. In presenting the first round of revenue projections for FY 2025, the discussion paper shows that the town will be challenged to sustain fiscal year 2024 service levels into fiscal year 2025 with the estimated available revenue. We are projecting a shortfall of at least $1.7 million. Again, this is the starting point of our discussion. Because of this projected shortfall, my budget message recommends a freeze on service level enhancements in the FY 2025 budget. Solving the FY 2025 budget challenge will likely require 1, discipline in looking at spending priorities for the fiscal year 2025. 2, continued work to evaluate and update revenue estimates. Again, the projections you are looking at tonight are our starting point. Thirdly, consideration of where the town might assume levels of risk to sustain outstanding community services. And fourthly, perhaps review of an override on the tax increase limits imposed by Proposition 2.5. Slide 3. As the discussion paper indicates, the town uses a purposeful resource management approach, including a strategic planning effort which flows to programming for operations and then through to budgeting. This approach ensures that the budget process is guided by key priorities rather than being driven by inertia. The town mission and vision statements informed the strategic review undertaken last fall. The town will revisit that review as part of the upcoming budget process. Themes like transparency, diversity, inclusion, and belonging will be highlighted in the budget process, as informed by the planning process, along with the traditional areas of focus like the economy, efficiency, and tax impact on our citizens. Slide 4. Many of the priorities that will be addressed in the budget will involve spending on direct services at the departmental level. But in addition to the town's focus on delivering immediate services, The budget message also highlights additional areas of concern. 1. The budget will focus on capital needs to sustain and renew town infrastructure. Infrastructure which supports town services. The FY 2025 initial draft template shows a proposed allocation of $1.8 million for pay-as-you-go capital items. However, that amount could be adjusted within financial policy depending on departmental requests and the amount of certified free cash verified by the Commonwealth expectedly this fall. Secondly, the budget message also focuses 2 additional commitments to the town's long-term financial health. The first area of focus is the budget message projects raising the OPEB contribution from $832,850 in FY 2024 to $853,671 in FY 25, as discussed in detail in the Appropriation Committee report prepared for the May 2023 annual town meeting. Again, a great deal of effort goes into that report. I just want to give you homework. One more time, go read that report. As proposed, raising the OPEB contribution by 2.5% each year will keep the town on track to fully fund the OPEB liability by the mid-2050s. Secondly, the budget message calls for a second successive contribution of $700,000 to the town's stabilization reserves, bringing reserve levels up to the level recommended in the Hopkinton Financial Management Policy, which suggests a reserve level at 5% of the annual operating budget. So, for the first time, I think if we proceed with this level of investment, we will hit our target. We've been inching towards that target over the past years. As the overall size of the budget grows over time, it's essential to track the level of the stabilization reserve and periodically adjust to keep close to the 5% target. As a reminder, adequate stabilization reserves are vital for maintaining the highest possible bond rating, which supports borrowing at the lowest possible costs. Any steps the town can take to preserve its current AAA bond rating will help control the cost of future capital projects, such as the Elmwood School Replacement Project. Thirdly, the town's third core budget priority is to sustain and, where possible, to improve service delivery to the community. As noted, with current revenue estimates, the town will be challenged to find ways to sustain services at the FY 2024 levels.
Excuse me, Norman. Are you on the right slide? Just for everyone.
Yes, we're still on this slide.
Okay.
Yeah. The budget's development memo included in tonight's meeting package provides a schedule for the upcoming budget cycle and a detailed 10-page issue paper discussing the prospective budget situation. So again, I really encourage you to read the issue paper, not just once, not just twice, but 3 times. It's a very helpful background to our just started budget discussions. I encourage everyone interested in this topic to review that paper. However, I will briefly cover the highlights noted in the paper now. So we go to slide 5. Small numbers, I hope you can all see them. They were also included in your meeting packet. Recurring sources of funds to support the FY25 budget are projected to be up by 5%, driven by these key factors. New growth in the tech space is trending better than budgeted in FY24, driven by about $53 million in new residential construction at smaller developments and a higher than expected valuation of ongoing work at the Eversource Hopkinton LNG plant. We are initially estimating that local aid from the Commonwealth will be up by 5%, which is less of an increase than Hopkinton has seen in recent years. This projection is informed by state reports. Our state revenues are trending about 1.8% below budget estimates. Although the largest source of local receipts, excise tax, has been flat over the past 5 years, high interest rates being earned on town deposits support a projection that overall local receipts will be up by 5%. I want to take this opportunity to thank our finance team and also the hard work by Tim O'Leary in ensuring that we continue to benefit from the high interest rates and by our investments. The investment side currently is led by Diane Hendrickson. On the slide 6, on the expense side, 2 factors must be accounted for at the outset. First, debt for some town projects authorized to be borrowed within the tax levy in previous years. This includes the Main Street project in 2019. That debt is coming into the books in 2025 and must be covered within available resources. Secondly, our insurance consultant is advising us to budget no less than 13% increase in healthcare costs for existing employees, which by itself is a $1.6 million cost to be covered. Because of those costs, about $3.7 million in new recurring revenue remains available to meet new recurring needs, including negotiated pay raises and contractual obligations. That $3.7 million equates to about 4.4% of current departmental operating budgets. At the September 19th joint meeting of the Select Board, School Committee, and Appropriations Committee, I was asked to present at least a preliminary view of how new recurring resources were likely to match up with new recurring spending needs tonight. Although the budget process is only now beginning, and FY25 data has yet to be requested, developed, gathered, or analyzed, I have attempted to answer the question I was asked. Slide 7. Table 3 in the budget initial discussion issue paper provided as an enclosure to my memo in tonight's meeting package gives a very preliminary comparison of the needs that have been publicly discussed, in contrast with the $3.7 million in new recurring revenue that is projected to be available. That comparison shows, as an extremely early tentative estimate, a budget shortfall of $1.7 million. To be clear, that number would grow if more spending needs are identified during the budget process. And I expect that additional needs will in fact be identified. And the shortfall number would likewise grow if revenue estimates worsen. Please remember that very challenge is one that the town has faced and solved in the past. As the issue paper describes, there are several ways in which the town can address an eventual budget shortfall. Slide number 8. 1. Departments could reduce their funding requests. 2. Additional revenue could be forthcoming from the Commonwealth local aid or additional new growth in the tax base or from some other source. 3. A decision could be made to deviate from the financial policy and to use one-time money to temporarily fund new recurring costs, such as salary and benefit expenses for new employees. And finally, if no other acceptable options are available, the town could pursue an override of the tax levy increase limits of Proposition 2.5. The materials presented tonight do not foresee a Proposition 2.5 override at this time. And without a Proposition 2.5 override, the anticipated tax impact for the FY25 budget is the same as 2.3 to 2.35% tax impact that budgets have called for from existing taxpayers over the past several years. Slide 9. In closing, let me say that I look forward to another collaborative and successful budget process in which all departments, boards, committees, and commissions come together with town professional staff to craft a solid proposal for consideration by the town meeting. We will work to sustain excellent services while saving the town's long-term fiscal stability and long-term strategic objectives. The town faces challenges in this process, but I'm confident that our team, together, we can meet those challenges. As an action, my memo asks that the Select Board concur with guidance that calls for budget submissions within 4.4% of FY 2024 levels, and that requests for new starts or expanded services be withheld from FY 2025 budget requests. Let me also take this opportunity to thank Tim O'Leary. It's nice to be with you here tonight, Tim.
Hi, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Tim is available to help answer any questions you may have. And he's assured me that he will be able to answer your questions. So I'll take your questions.
All right, do you want to go first, Joshua?
Please.
How about down here?
I can, if you want.
Sure.
Yeah, I want to say that I agree that we really need to avoid a Prop 2.5 override for operational expenses with all the looming capital expenses for schools especially. So I want to reiterate that we really want to do that. And that I hope that we can work to stay within the 4.4% so that we can have a under 2.5% budget this year and no new starts, which is disappointing, but I think we have to do it this year in order to get the school projects passed.
Anything else?
I just want to make a comment to department heads and people who are doing budgets. I know I did them years ago myself, and please, when you're asked to do the budget, sit down and do the budget, get it in as soon as possible. It's really unfair to those who do their budget right away and get it in, and then have somebody hold out till the last minute, and then we have to go back and adjust other people's, all the budgets. So when you're told to get your budget in, get it in. That's my comment.
I agree with my colleagues, and thank you, Norman, for the walkthrough. I think Proposition 2.5, that's certainly on our radar big time. We don't want to override it. Now, that said, I just think we also want to consider some of the things we have been saying, and also trying to work on the school side, on town side, on our services side, which is that because of the growth that we have experienced, that we foresee, there are things that we need to focus on to continue the level of service, continue the level of excellence that we have with our schools. Congratulations being #1 on niche, by the way. And doing all that needs investments, funding, and all the good work, hard work that you all put together. So I don't want to compromise on that either. And we definitely have a tough situation with the already a little bit of deficit that's projected. And the question is, how do we solve this equation? And it needs, of course, careful, thoughtful analysis, and also insights into where we can do some savings and making some compromises, but also be cognizant and focused on where we cannot compromise, where we absolutely need to invest, absolutely need to have the funding to keep the excellence in our schools, excellence in our services. And the other thing I always keep in mind, and it's a challenging situation, again, we don't want to burden with extra taxes. That's not anyone's intent or anyone's favorite area. But I think we have to acknowledge that for a decade, the growth that we have seen, our investments in infrastructure, our investments in school, in capacity and others, we have fallen behind. Now, how do we make that up and then keep up with the growth? Is the question and big challenge for all of us to solve. And my preference is, doing both in a way that we find, the best optimal without compromising on our services and also not burdening on our taxes. Few areas I just discussed in the past as well, and I know we'll come to it, is that some of the risks that we have taken traditionally, is this the right time to but is it the right time to manage those, in a more, I would say, comfortable way, or do we carry the same level of risks in terms of OPEB, in terms of stabilization fund and all that? And we had that discussion before. It's not a lot of big difference in there, but that's, again, I bring it up only because do we raise taxes and put more to mitigate risk, or do we manage it in a more equivalent way? And the only reason I say that is I know we have all our great financial minds and the volunteers who are very focused on managing the risk for the town. I appreciate that. Something to keep in mind, that if we had been comfortable carrying certain level of risk for a decade, is this a time to manage it better than we were doing before, or do we continue the level of risk? In my view, continuing the level of risk is probably a better compromise given all the other factors that we have in place. And the second area I also, I think we brought up earlier, is one of our policy or practice has been to start with where we had been in the past for a certain level of funding. Can we? And I know that is well utilized in all the places. In some places there are savings, and that's why we have the cash reserve at the end. So is that something we can also look at a little closely and say, and we often do that in our, professional departmental budget, is that assume you have zero money and then justify what you are doing and how you grow up from there, even though last year you spent $5 million in here. Instead of we started at $5 million and assuming we have $5 million and then increase on that. It's just a practice. It's not that we are going to take away that money, or no one's going to, of course, be able to sustain without the level funding that we had before, but it's just that mindset that could help us find some unused money and where we can invest less than before because of certain situations and others. But I know it took a long time, but those are some of the key areas I think we want to all collaborate on. It's a tough task ahead, but we want to go quickly because of the timing and whatnot, but at the same time keep the service levels and improve where we see we have lagged in the past and manage the tax base comfortable 2.5%.
I just wanted to add, I think Norman and the superintendent can confirm, but I think we do build our budgets from the bottom up, right? We don't assume that we start necessarily with, because if you had fewer kids, you don't have fewer kids, but if you did, you would need fewer teachers.
It never happens that we had fewer kids.
Right, okay.
So I don't have a lot of questions. I really appreciate the work that goes into this. It helps bring it into focus. I know that it's hard to start at a position where you don't have as much as you wish you had. It's always hard. I lived my life that way, raising 6 kids, but choices. So I really appreciate all the information. I think that people understand that I like to contemplate budgeting. In fact, I can only contemplate budgeting, understanding the money that I know I'm going to have available. And so I really appreciate this. But one of the questions I wanted to ask or think about is I also remember hearing last year that we didn't necessarily have a process in the ongoing conversation to sort of adjust to monies as they became known to us, right? So I just throw that out there to make sure that we're thinking about the ways that this is truly a conversation that comes into terms with the situation as it plays out. If I had any question, and it's the question everybody's going to hate that I ask, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to ask it, is what kind of sort of impact on outgoing, like trending budgets? we're trending at lower new growth. That's the way we're trending. So what impact does I know that we heard the board so far, and we haven't gone around the room, say that we don't want to contemplate a Prop 2.5 override. But what is the realistic picture with the capital projects we're looking at for this year in terms of, maybe not this year, but in terms of predictable needs to go to the voters to ask about overrides in the near future to support those new projects?
Good question. In fact, Tim and I, we discussed this topic extensively over the last days. Feel free to jump in. Briefly, we're collecting information on capital projects. We don't have that yet. We're just beginning the process. Tim.
So we had a point in time in May at the annual town meeting where we had assembled a 5-year list that was topping up to $300 million in spending needs. And the schools released a document on September 7th that revised that list downward by $120 million. And I suspect that those items didn't go away in your aspirational list. They've moved off beyond the 2028 time horizon. So they may still be out there. It was a middle school renovation for $80 million, a new preschool, and a central office for $21 and that 4 million for something else was 105 million, I think. $105 million.
There was some traffic and related to being better to it than I can, but related to if the middle school moves a grade down to Hopkins and we have a 2, 3, 4 school across the street, there are things that we would not be needing to do right now. The other piece is the middle school, high school renovation that was the bulk of what that list was. It is not something that we have an anticipated date that we would be looking at. It could be much more indefinitely put out because, and looked at as we get closer to what the enrollment is going to be.
So that's great, thank you. So all those were all plans, notional plans that had never been presented, voted on, vetted by, they were just put out for planning purposes. And in May they were more compressed and now they're more stretched out, so that's going to help. That helps the layering of the timing as things go out into the future. But we are still looking at a substantial tax impact from capital projects in the coming years, separate and distinct from what's happening in the operating budget within the Proposition 2.5 limits, because since 2019, or really since 2020, we've only been proposing big capital projects as excluded debt, so that it doesn't squeeze out direct services today. So there will be a parallel choice going down the road. How do you manage these operating budgets with escalating costs, 26% for healthcare last year, 13% projected this year? How is that side of the budget going to work? And then how do we manage this large hundreds of millions of dollars in spending, some of which is going to be resolved in a few weeks from now? So it's a path, and it's going to be a challenging path. But we don't have the cliff edge there. What we do know is that 75 or 80% of our costs are for people who touch citizens every day: police officers, firefighters, teachers, people who collect excise tax, assessors, and so we do the zero-based exercise every year. But it's not people pursuing research or, people involved in new product lines. They're people who are serving functions now. So we really have to talk about abandoning some service lines if we wanted to adjust that much.
Yeah, I think that answers it.
Okay. Nancy, I'll turn it over to you and your board to ask your question.
Thank you. So is there any questions? So I want to start with a couple of pieces. One is I did send the board an email which you responded to regarding the concerns that we had initially about the calendar for the budget as reflected by what we voted as the budget calendar back on September 19th, I think was the date, and concerns that the budget message being delayed a little bit would make it difficult on Dr. Kavanaugh and Mrs. Roderick and their teams. I was able to speak with Dr. Kavanaugh earlier today, and we expect to be able to meet the original deadline to be able to push that all together. I think that kind of goes back to a comment you made, and I know you're talking about town departments specifically, but that the school, we're trying to do our part to make this process as smooth as we can with the zero-based budgeting that we've always used, of course. I think we always come into this process, we all have great aspirations for how we're going to keep things nice and low, and we're going to be able to, move things around. I think the challenge that we all face right now is there are some unknowns like Chapter 70 funding coming in, unknowns like we're starting with a zero-based budget. What's that going to be as each department within the school comes in and presents to us, and what are the choices that are going to have to be made? There are some pieces that we know that Dr. Kavanaugh had presented on the September 19th meeting, some things that we know, some things I wouldn't consider them to be service level enhancements, but really meeting needs of students when we talk about some of the special education positions that we're, and I know that we've all heard from our special ed parents, and I believe that as a group, we collectively want to make sure that our students are having their needs met in many different ways. That said, we are rolling up our sleeves and we've been, ready to work with everybody and do the best we can to bring in a budget that is meeting the target, even though, we don't know exactly where we're going to be in a couple of months. We do appreciate where the town's is with finances. We do appreciate the focus on the new school and how important that will be, it being able to meet our students' needs, and in some cases shift costs in ways that are beneficial to the town. Speaking to Mr. O'Leary's point, when we talk about things like not just the grade configuration and as we've discussed before, the ability to get that MSBA funding, but kind of what we're looking at in terms of the old Elmwood School and what that would be doing. Is there a possibility to do things like put the central office in there, a preschool program, things that would save money from the long-term capital plan? So that's a lot I've added in, but just, we're going to move forward and look forward to working with all of you. And I think the transparency is a big piece, making sure the town understands where we are. And it's not a surprise when we get to January and we have our vote to bring the budget forward. So.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate the inconvenience of the shift in the timeline too, and I apologize for that, and appreciate the work that you did to accommodate that. So that's really appreciated. Anybody on the school committee else have any comments or questions at this point? Okay.
Just ask about the capital timeline. I was looking at that this weekend. So that in your new timeline, the items in yellow are the ones that can be put off for future years, right? It's the green ones are ones you have to do, right? The Elmwood School. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify. But I think the yellow ones are the ones that can be postponed later, if I'm reading it right.
Which one?
It's not just we actually voted to push them off.
Okay.
Yeah.
The yellow ones. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Why don't I go to Zoom so I don't forget Mike?
Oh, thank you. So does anyone on Appropriation Committee have any comments or questions? Caroline?
Yes, thank you. Just some thoughts on the, I know source of the revenue side. I guess we kind of assume like we have certain, town service fees, collections, and mostly majority from the tax revenues. I'm just wondering for the additional or new services like the school districts providing or anything related, is there any thought on maybe we can provide some like a fee-based service to increase the revenue, or maybe we can do some kind of consolidation to achieve the economy of scale, or any other? Have we like exhausted all types of revenue format in this case? Just trying to think of other ways to kind of bridge the gap a little. Yeah.
So just in terms of fee-based things, we already do charge our kids for things like transportation, parking, athletics. Yeah, and at some point you get to that place where you say, how much can families really take on in terms of educating their kids and providing services?
I think the other piece, if I can piggyback off of that, is things like we do charge bus fees for grades 7 to 12 universally. That to take the bus, kids have to pay a bus fee. I think there are two dangers in increasing the fee. One is it becomes difficult. But I think the other is that as families find it harder to afford, they pull their kids off the buses and drive them, which increases traffic on our roads. And I think that's a real concern as well.
Yeah, I understand that one, but what about other, do we have any other type of services that could be restructured? Like certain, like teacher, like a service-based, that requires teachers extra time or anything? Because I'm not familiar with, what exactly, the teaching curriculum or special education base. Just a thought, it's, I think you can definitely, review whatever you have, right? Just a thought as a suggestion. The other thought is talking about the expenses. Maybe do we have like every one of the expenses as a must, like even if we reduce the level or the quality of the service, it's unacceptable, because we're looking at very challenging budget problem. Maybe in certain area reduce the quality a little bit, could save us, good amount of, money, or I just don't know which department or every department in our town has done this type of exercise, so we can have a chart. Like if we have this service level, we will incur this much spending, so it's easy for us to see the service level with corresponding expenses. And so we can, basically from a curve, we can pick, this is the point we want. So right now, I'm not sure, the whole exercise, if there's any aspect for us to see this kind of information.
Yeah, and I think I would go back to the per pupil expenditure data that we shared with you the last time that we were here. That does compare 321 school districts across the state of Massachusetts, and in all of those buckets, we are either in the bottom decile, quartile, or in just a few of them we're in the lowest 50%. And I think that that's a good illustration of the fact that we are spending money very wisely. I think the kids are getting a high-quality education here, and when we take a look at some of those buckets, we're not spending a whole lot of money to make that happen. I mean, I think our per pupil expenditure is roughly $15,000 annually, and we are competing with some districts that are spending $30,000 per kid.
That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Caroline. How about Jean?
Thank you. Yeah, I do have a couple of questions. You mentioned, first of all, thank you for pulling all of this together. I've sat at a lot of these tables for a long time. I don't think we ever didn't start at a deficit. So I know that we can work together to provide excellent services for the town without an override, and I'm sure we all would like to avoid that. I just wanted to refresh my memory or understand timelines about some of the additional revenue sources that you mentioned. I don't know if you're expecting a similar re-accessing of money in the overlay account this year. I'm not describing that well, but you know what I mean. If lawsuits have settled, and we know if we are able to repurpose some of the funds that are in the overlay account, or sort of what the timeline will be. I guess really what I want to know is what is the timeline that we're going to understand better what the money is for the state, both for the schools and for the town, so that, as the conversation is continuing and people are refining the expense side, we're also keeping very current on the revenue side at the same time.
In terms of, I'll talk to timelines. In terms of timelines, we are at the mercy of the state budget schedule with regard to local aid. With regard to free cash, we're looking at certifying our free cash ahead of the special town meeting.
Okay.
With regard to local receipts, usually that depends on our billing cycle, and as you have seen, I think in past years, we normally have a firm number right around February, March. And then with regard to your question on the overlay, I'll let Tim give the specifics. There are two things that are happening this year. One side of one of those is we're not proposing to add to the overlay. In terms of whether we're going to dip into the overlay, I'll let Tim jump on.
Again, two things down that branch.
Yes, yeah.
The first thing will be what happens with the batch of appeals that are coming due in November. So we had a batch that were slated for October, and Eversource has again requested to stall that batch. So we were hoping to have almost half of the outstanding appeals go to trial this fall. They have stalled the October. They still have a chance to stall the November. So we'll see what happens with that batch of November appeals, which is, I think, $1.1 million. I have it here, 1.1, 1.3. And then the second thing we'll know is they have until February 1st of 2024 to file their next round of appeals or to not file. They will not talk to us about their intentions. And so we all sit by the mailbox for the first 10 days of February, waiting to see if the appeals will come in. Because when they do file them, they file them on the last day, and they file them by U.S. mail. They don't fax them. They put them in a mailbox on the very last day.
What is the last day? I'm sorry.
It's February 1st.
Oh, it's February 1st.
Is the day. So we'll know, like, by February 10th or so, and every day we can get a little more comfortable with the mail delivery right around that time of year. And then we will have a very good idea of how much the Board of Assessors may choose to release from that account, because it's under the authority of that elected board. But we would have a recommendation when we have some knowledge about that. So the resolution of the pending appeals, and then whether they appeal more, how much gets kicked loose. Again, this is not our favorite kind of money because it's one-time money. As with certified free cash, we could use it to pay more in OPEB. We could use it to pay more to stabilization. We could use it to do more pay-go capital projects. We could use it to pay down some larger capital projects. But if we were to use it to hire new staff, we would be departing from our financial policy, which is one of the options that's available. It's an option that we have been tried not to do, but it's one of the tools available. And if somebody felt they wanted to do an override next year, well, then you can go ahead and spend some one-time money on recurring costs now with a plan to do that and push that down the road. We put out documents that say what the paths are, and we explain what the policy is. And then it's a political decision about how to balance those short-term and long-term goals. We try to inform that decision.
We certainly all understand the difference between recurring and non-recurring revenue. I really was just looking more for a timeline. And just to go back to the state budget, typically you know that number. I understand it changes a little bit every year, but okay, so it sounds like February, March, we're going to have much better revenue predictions than we have right now.
Yes, even at that point in February, it's one arm of the Commonwealth giving their position on the budget.
Yeah.
It's a 4-step process. You get the House, you get the Senate, you have the governor, and then you have a combined effort.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just didn't know the timeline. That's great. Thank you.
So when the January 23rd memo comes out, we typically have quite good information at that time. But not certain, because we still have to know about the appeals, and we may have a sense of the governor's mark, which is typically a floor and not a ceiling, close to a ceiling. So we know more as the process evolves on the revenue side. And we don't know anything about motor vehicle excise tax, which is 3% of our revenue, until February. Most of it comes in a single commitment in February. And so those of you who are thinking about buying a new expensive car, please do so now. And we'll get that excise tax bill out to you for next year at 90% value.
Great, thank you. I appreciate the timeline.
All right, thanks, G. Bill, do you have anything?
Sure, a couple things. First of all, Norman, thanks again for sharing this information, and I really appreciate your how clear you are on the seriousness of watching every nickel. And we keep talking about it, but this is one of those years that we can maybe slow it down a little bit and not have to take away from other groups. And with each budget, the select board has asked the department heads to come with the leanest budget they possibly can. So obviously agree with my colleagues. We'll get through this again, but there's just less and less wiggle room every year, it seems. They cover a couple of questions I had. First of all, Tim, it's great to see you again, and thank you for your wealth of knowledge. But I wanted to follow up a little bit on free cash, just so I have a better understanding. I see we have a bit of a dip this year, projected, roughly 5%. And I'm curious, is free cash, is that estimate you're sharing, or the team, is that on an accrual basis, or is that, as of today, we're looking at about 1.8 million in free cash?
Great question. The free cash number was developed very simply by taking the 3 expenditure numbers that are non-recurring and summing them. So it was the OPEB contribution that the Appropriation Committee called for. It was the amount for the stabilization that would bring us to the 5%, again, to bring us into policy. And the third number was the projected pay-as-you-go capital from last year's appropriation report. So those three numbers came out of that. And if you sum them, that's the amount of free cash. We believe there will be enough free cash available to do that or more. So you could say that that could be $5 million now, perhaps, and you could have more pay-go capital, or you could put more into stabilization. You could put more into everything else. The presentation Mr. Kamalo gave really focused on the recurring money available to support departmental spending, because that seems to be where the most difficult decisions lie. So the question of how much free cash is ultimately used, how many pay-go projects get funded, how much goes to stabilization and OPEB, that's kind of one set of decisions that are bundled together if you're going to follow financial policy. And then the other side is the recurring piece. And that's why it was presented that way.
So if I understand you correctly, then that 1.8 million does not include, for instance, unfunded positions, which we budgeted for last year. And there are, I can think of one department alone where there's a substantial amount of unfunded yet budgeted positions that would be additional revenue coming in for that free cash. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. Unfunded or unfilled?
I'm sorry, unfilled, but okay. Budgeted yes. For.
Yes. Think of it this way. Come July 31st each year, we have to close our fiscal year. As part of closing the fiscal year, there is accounting and the expenditures that occur beyond July 31st. Because of that reason, we can't tell you right now that the free cash number is X, because we have to close the financial year, see where our balances are, and get those balances certified by the state.
Thank you.
And Susan, feel free to jump in too, because you're part of the process too.
No, I mean that's well stated. So once FY23 is finally closed, you'll be able to see what the free cash is, but then also has to go through the process of being certified. So, but as of right now, it's not completely done.
Great, thanks. That's the only question I had.
All right, thank you, Bill. I just wanted to not reiterate, but thank you, Norman, for putting that packet together. It really was helpful, and thank you, Tim, for helping out for this part. It provided a lot of information. Being not necessarily the optimist, but I was kind of happy to see that our new growth for 2024, or this current cycle, we're 800,000 over, so that if we didn't have that surplus or more than expected, it would make it would make it worse than we are by $800,000. So I think that is a plus going forward. And I know every start of this budget season, we're always kind of in a position like this, but I'm hoping going forward we'll be able to work these things out. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, one other thing that we might want to talk about just very briefly is student enrollment. We are currently in October, ahead of where we were predicted to be at the end of the school year in June. And so the school department will certainly be watching those numbers very carefully, because student enrollment, helps us to understand how many people we need to put in front of children. So.
I want to definitely say this. You have all put so much effort into projections. It is an amazement to me that we just can't get our arms fully around the projections. But it's all about you doing such a great job. A great job being number one and all. But it's incredible.
And we got to use demographers, independent.
No, I know. I mean, I've watched the process play out. I've paid a lot of attention. We've really worked really hard to get different resources to try and sort of puzzle out why it is we can't predict our numbers more accurately. And I guess it's just, good for us that we continue to attract families with school-age kids. But
I was just going to say the state has identified Hopkinton as an anomaly in student growth, student enrollment growth. If you look at other communities around the state, you don't really see this kind of growth, and in fact, there are communities who are experiencing the opposite end of that.
Yeah, I'm going to add that, while we continue to refine our estimates and chart our actuals, we are consistently in the same direction. It's not like we're up and down, we're closing the gap on actuals to estimates, but we're always actually very conservative. So when we're budgeting, it's the conservative look, because our reality is always just a little or a lot over what the projections are. So I think while it's, the projections are reality, as we do chart reality, we see that we are at least keeping pace with projections, in fact, outpacing projections. It's always in one direction. So I know there are people who are confused about, because they're not accurate projections, they're actually being conservative. They're too conservative.
Yeah.
We're trying on our side, trying to look at your very complicated enrollment growth and what it means for local aid. And it's complicated by the fact that the growth isn't linear across the state because poorer communities get more per student. But our population is growing and we're a larger share of the state pie. We're a bigger slice of the pie of students. And I think we're over 1% of the students in the state in our little school district now. And there's a lag. There's a lag between the experience you have with students walking in the door and when the state books those students for the purposes of the local aid. And that's the piece we haven't been able to sort out on our side. So if you can figure out a way to correlate local aid with your enrollment and the state lag, that would be really helpful. Because it's hard for us to predict it. We've tried to sort that variable out, and we don't have the math for it.
I would also add to that, it is obviously in part a numbers game that our enrollment is going up, but we're also seeing more low-income students and students with different needs than we had 5-10 years ago. That in what we're needing to provide for our students increases at a proportional rate. Our number of kids on IEPs, number of kids with different needs has increased as well, and that adds more than just the per pupil expenditure. It adds other dimensions of that.
Just to comment on that, I appreciate the projections. I think it's to Muriel's point, it's a very difficult task to project most accurately on a projection that has so many variabilities and so many dynamic variables that can change, through the summer when your projection was earlier. And I work a lot on projection side on various other areas. And as it is, they're all hard. Weather projection is probably easier than our school growth projection, given the dynamics, given the nature of the variability. So I fully appreciate that, and I know that the conservative part is also playing into it. But for everyone's understanding, I want to also point out one other thing, which is that as far as I can remember in recent years, our projections have been pretty, I would say, showing aggressive growth, and then we in reality beat that growth, and then in reality we always have fallen behind to plan to manage that growth, or to plan the capacity, to plan the investment, to plan the even operating expenses, in my view. If you look at the numbers, it always has been a challenge, but it always has been the reality as well. So in other words, I think going conservative helps us get the foot in the conversation in many ways, and get to the reality as well that we can do, given the constraints we have with the tax limits, with the resources that we have. So I fully appreciate, how you're managing the growth and the projections with the real money that we have. One thing I also want to lay out on that is when we juxtapose the growth numbers, growth rate, with our inflation rate, with our overall contractual obligation, if you sum them up, and then match it to our 2.5% obligation, I really don't see how it all matches together. It just doesn't in our head. So I appreciate all the sacrifice everyone is doing to match, and we have to continue to do that. We have to do it on all fronts. It's obvious. But I fully appreciate the challenge, and at the same time, I always worry, and that is my urge for everyone, that let's not, if we have to cut our hair, that's one thing. Let's not cut our fingers or our arms or our legs to get there, because that wouldn't be, a desirable state. And this is a dynamic time. If we look at all our service and all our school and town service levels, we see it everywhere, that the stress is coming on our water challenges or on our fire police capacity challenges. And then school challenges. We are fully, appreciative and cognizant of that, and together we always have solved it. So we will continue to solve it. But appreciating the reality is, I think, a big part of it going into the conversation as well.
I just have one quick question. Have the budget working groups started?
For the budget advisory group?
That's the one.
Not yet.
And when will that be?
I know Vasuda was working on scheduling. I don't know if she is, but soon.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So,
should I make a motion?
Yes.
Okay. So I move to adopt the budget message as outlined in the town manager's memo.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if it's okay, I would just seek a motion for the school committee to adjourn from this.
Yep.
Motion by Amanda, second by Susan. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. And we are adjourned.
Help yourself if you'd like any lavender.
Yeah, take some lavender. Doesn't happen all the time. It's amazing.
From the Appropriation Committee, I'd like to adjourn. I hear a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Ready to adjourn. Jean?
Yes.
Caroline?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And yes, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Dare I say it, on time.
We are, just 4 minutes.
All right, that's right, that counts. All right, here we, Amy, do you want to take away the next action item, policy on redaction of public survey comments?
Yes. So I do have a slideshow that Lucas put up there. Great. So you can go ahead to the next slide. And so the reason this came up, and I've experienced this also in my personal life if I've done surveys for volunteer groups, but also in our town surveys, that when you have an open-ended comment section in a survey, which we usually do, people kind of write whatever. And we've sometimes had times both where people include personally identifying information about themselves or others, possibly unintentionally. And so then when we publish the comments, so it's a little bit of debate of whether we should redact some comments or not. And I thought if we were going to do that, we should have a consistent policy or guidelines at least. So people could, for example, use comments to dock someone, reveal their personally identifiable information, or things that could be, there would also be things that could be required to be redacted by law, information on minors or victims of crimes. And then other things which I don't think we could necessarily really redact, but people sometimes also include profanity, threats, hate speech, false information, spam. And I don't know if we haven't, come across that before. But these things come up when you allow open-ended comments, which I want to allow open-ended comments because you get good feedback that way. Right. But anyway, you can go to the next slide. But this is why it came up. One time I did a PTO survey, and there was open-ended comments, and the person wrote very detailed information and signed their name and their phone number, and they had the impression that only the PTA executive board would be reading it, and they were shocked when everyone else had seen it. So anyway, when we did this came up, I first noticed it in the town meeting survey, which was about a year ago, July 2022. So this is the language we used in the Upper Charles Trail survey, just a kind of a disclaimer to get information that survey and comments results are public, so people would understand that, and that any open responses would be a public record and would be shared publicly. And we said we would redact names and other personally identifiable information, but that it still could be available via public records request, and to keep those things in mind. So I think that did help. We got fewer things like that in the Upper Charles Trail survey, but people did still mention people by names, and sometimes they're critical of other people in town using their names. Next. And then when the survey results were published, I think we ultimately decided not to redact names. And people had put street addresses too, because we were trying to determine if all people in all parts of towns were filling out the survey. And then next. So this is kind of what I was thinking of proposing, and we don't have to decide tonight, or if you guys don't agree with me, that's fine. But just similar to before, that just that disclaimer that the results will be open, or the results of the survey will be public and will be public record and will be shared publicly. And I thought some additional guidance on please stay on topic, use common courtesy, be respectful of others, because sometimes people really want to just attack, a chair of a committee or something. And that any names or other PPI would be redacted before publication but would still be available via public records request, unless it turns out there are a lot of exemptions to public records law. So if information was covered under exemption, that would not be part of the public comment, like if they were talking about a minor or a victim of a crime. So that's kind of what I was thinking, and I don't know if it would really be a policy or more so a guideline. And then on the last slide, I just have the links to the exemptions to public record. Yeah. So I don't know if you have thoughts, or you want to table this for another time.
I do have a couple of thoughts. First of all, I appreciate this, right? And I think that anytime that you're trying to sort of protect the public from themselves, it's also super challenging, because I'm pretty sure we can't tell people that they can't use profanity, but we can encourage. Yes. Encourage that, right? So, I mean, free speech is a thing, but when they talk about someone else in a way that that might be disparaging, I mean, we limit that in a public meeting, right? It's not the forum. I think for me, it walks a good line in that we appreciate that. We want open-ended comments, and sometimes with open-ended comments, you get more than is helpful, right? But redacting information that might identify people, or information that has to be redacted, makes sense.
Do you want to go back to slide 5, Lucas? That was the one that I guess that we're discussing.
Yeah, the wording. Shahadul, do you have any thoughts?
Thanks, Amy, for putting it together. I think, these are great points, and a lot of, good things there, and common sense in many ways that we definitely want to honor and find respectful for any conversation we have. And I think one thing I'm trying to kind of weigh in is that this would be our, editorial privilege in some ways, or is this something we want to regulate and policy? I am more towards editorial privilege. I don't want to, because I think sometimes I worry, are we, do we over-regulate in some space and, discourage, or even though we don't intend to, limit free speech in some ways. So something to think about. I'll think through this too. I think these are great points. I definitely think, we want to see those happening. Yeah. I'm just thinking, what is the mean to make it happen and adopt those?
So I was a little worried that if we didn't have a guideline or policy, what if we're removing some people's names but not others? That's, I think, where we fall on the slippery slope. So I thought we should either always remove people's names and addresses or never. Not that we should, because if we pick and choose, then that's where it looks subjective.
Right.
Yeah.
How about you, Mary Jo?
Well, I was just looking at, we can redact it except for a public records request. And then they can get all the information, and it's like, it just doesn't seem right to me that it wouldn't always be redacted if we redact it. So, but it isn't. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's, I think it would be, you know, if we redact it except for a public records request, and then they can get all the information, and it's like, it just doesn't seem right to me that it wouldn't always be redacted if we redact it. So, but it isn't. And I really think that we've got to really look at the public records law and find out exactly what their exemptions are, and keep that in mind when writing comments for the public, because we can redact it when we're going to make it public, but if somebody wants to get it through public records request, they can.
Yeah.
And they can make it public. So it's like...
I just think that's a lot more effort if people go to, and they might go to that effort, or they might not.
Yeah, this almost feels like it sort of is a little bit preventative to me, that we just don't throw the personal information out there in the publication we put out. But it is, people need to know that it is available under the public record. But
I understand that. I just don't want to get in the weeds or in trouble with the public records.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yes.
In fact, again, good work, Amy. In response to Mary Jo's comment, one way to address that is to simply stay with the first sentence. Please note that the results of the survey, including the open response comments, are a public record and will be shared publicly, subject to the public record request law. And then not include everything else, because the moment you mention staying on topic, using common courtesy and respect, that's when you start getting getting in trouble. And then the last piece, clearly, Mary Jo, I think you're onto something on that issue, namely, if it's a public record, we should not be seen to making an effort to not make it a public record.
Right.
But names and addresses of public officials are exempt from public records law. So do we redact things that are exempt from public records law?
Yeah, I think the first sentence, so long as we say and subject to the public record request law, that covers that.
Okay, but has it been our practice to look through the survey results and remove information that is exempt from public records law? Because I don't think it has been.
People have to request that their phone numbers be redacted.
So how would they? Okay, but if another survey respondent decides they want to publish my address, I don't even know that until it gets published. Right?
I think there's an exemption having people request.
Yeah.
What's that?
I think there would be mentions requesting that your information not be shared.
But she wouldn't know.
But I wouldn't know until it was
on the
published.
survey.
Well, the survey you could ask.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So if my neighbor publishes my address, I won't know that, right?
But your neighbor's not subject to the public records law.
Yeah.
Only here.
Yeah.
No, but if they publish my address,
she doesn't have any opportunity to ask for it to be redacted
published until after, right?
You mean in reference to some comments?
People put information about other people.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. In an attempt to dox them, or or I could be overthinking it, but yeah.
No,
I don't know.
Because we're thinking about whether all this information is out there already.
Yeah. I'm not particularly about my address. My address is out there, but I did read that because people sometimes use it to intimidate people that work at the courts, or for example.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And I think, there are so many scenarios that can pop up. We'll learn and continue to learn. So these are good ground rules. But I also think that that's where the editorial, judgment or kind of...
But we can't make an editorial judgment. That's the problem.
But when we publish the survey results, if we see profanity, we can make a call that we are not going to publish that.
But we can't really, unless we have...
Free speech. It's a protected expression.
Oh.
Sadly.
Okay. No, I didn't know on print, survey results, it's applicable.
Yeah. I do think...
Applicable in a sense because it's a town's message eventually coming from the survey.
It's not the town's message, though. The survey results don't... yes, it's a town... Let's say it's a town project, but it's not our response. It's not our thoughts and feelings. It's somebody's response.
Yeah, no, understood.
If we had a policy that we removed profanity, except for public records, but I guess.
Got it, yeah.
That would be challenging.
That would be challenging
That
because
would be
how do you define it? Yeah.
And I think it would be challenged probably. But are we comfortable with at least the first statement? I think people at least need to be reminded that whatever they put on a survey is going to be public.
I do think that's
right.
Yeah.
So I think making that first comment, there's a piece of me that also wants to say, to be polite and be respectful, but I don't know that
Well, it wouldn't be required. It's just a please.
Yeah, right. Please stay on topic, use common courtesy, and be respectful of others. That doesn't, I mean, we're not, implying that we're going to get rid of it if you don't.
Like a guideline. And
so is there ever any issue, like, I don't know is there any time where you see something like that you're worried about somebody's safety? What do you do then if you've got a survey? I mean, what happens then?
I guess if we're a threat, that would be different.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
Right. That's why I'm
criminal
not sure. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but even on newspapers or public media, if you use profanity, they can.
But they're not a public entity like we are. So the newspaper has the editorial right to remove things.
Right, but when we are printing it, it is printing it out. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but from what I'm seeing, it sounds like a great idea. But in general, I think the guidelines would be a good option. I don't know if you want to regulate it yet, but
so the first sentence as edited by Mr. Kamalo, and then I would say keep the please stay on topic, use common courtesy, and be respectful of others, just because that's a nice thing to remind people, and we're not putting any stipulations on it. And then stay open to other modifications if we had to.
Okay. So not removing names then?
Yeah.
Or addresses?
Yeah.
And people always have the option of not filling it out.
Except that people fill it out about other people is the problem.
In many surveys, people have written some pretty mean things about people that live in the town with their names in their open response, which is not nice, but it
makes us uncomfortable when we find ourselves needing to share it, right?
Yeah, it's not people. I mean, there's also the inadvertent of somebody using their own name when they didn't mean to, but there's more worried about that when they're attacking someone by name and address.
Yeah.
Certainly looks bad and not a very friendly conversation at that time.
Well, I'm open to that, and then obviously open to the conversation going forward. I think that we'd have to ask town council how to best go forward in any other way, right?
Yeah, that's what we don't.
So let's just maybe stay open to that. Okay. Appreciate that, Amy, a lot.
Good work. Thank you.
Okay. Shahidul,
What's it?
Explain everything, get input from Bill Galvin's office and see what he's going to say, because he's in charge of public records law.
Yeah, I think the town council could advise us on that. The only reason is I haven't seen extensive profanity even on public places.
What I have seen is the revealing of people's names and addresses in our survey,
right.
not the profanity.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I've seen some. But anyway.
Got it. Yeah.
All right. Shahidul, do you want to just introduce your strategic planning framework and what you want to hope to do going forward?
Yeah, no, thanks. I think this is just to stir up the thoughts again. I will visit it at large with all our goals in hand. So I don't want to take too much time today, but what the intent is, when we have so many priorities and so many moving parts, I want to make sure that we have a strategic plan that connects and ties everything together. And then when we are talking about goals, we are aligned with that and making sure we are focused on more outcome-driven goals along with the, overarching strategic plan. And I know we are doing a lot of great work, and certainly a lot of good strategic goal has been achieved and has been put out there. This is more to kind of frame it, structure it in alignment, and better kind of construct so we can march along together. And all are kind of in our vision to action. So that said, I thought the way we have structured it can be restructured a little bit by higher category of goals that are tied to our mission. Like, for example, this year I think we still have about 10 or 11 goals altogether, and if you look at them categorically, they can be bundled in some ways. So this can give an opportunity to do that, starting with the goal area or overarching goal category, so to speak, and then going to the more specificity. I would like to adopt like the SMART goals, what we call, which is becoming more specific and actionable, achievable, measurable, relevant, and time-bound. So all those will give us more specificity, and we will have long-term goals, but also since we revisit and redo these every year, rightfully so, we want to time-bound it within a year so we can measure how much success we have done and then take it up a notch from there, focusing on the long-term goal as well. And the action plans, which is, again, very specific action plans that we can do kind of with some background and some measurable and some reportable plan that we, throughout the year, then can talk about as we get town manager's report or we look at certain issues. Again, we do that as our practice, but having it a little bit structured would help us stay on track, in my view. And finally, the KPIs, the performance indicators. So always something that can be measured. If we can identify something that's linked to our goal, to our overall plan, and measure it time to time. That way, again, we can ensure the outcome, how much we have achieved. A lot of times it becomes more subjective. This will give an opportunity to make it a little quantitative so we can measure ourselves, our success, and where we think we can improve better, we focus on those. Where we have achieved great, we can do the stretching from there on. And so these are the main 4 areas that I want to structure around. And as I was discussing this, I think Norman brought up a good point about, should we also add another component for governance, which is how we are going to govern our goal throughout this process. So I like the idea, and I think that's another addition we can think of. And I don't beleaguer the conversation. I just gave an example on one of our goals that we have, and these are some arbitrary numbers I threw in, but to give the specificity that we can adopt, to give the KPI flavor and the action plan that we can look at. So something to think about, and looking at our current goals. First, how can we restructure and put in a little bit of a format, keeping the content and the goals the same, because we all talked about it and we all love those. We have voted for those. And then the second part is, I also like the, more focused and achievable goals for the year. Out of those 10, 12, once we categorize them and kind of quantify them and break them down in these components, maybe we choose 3 or 4 for the coming year based on a priority that we have, while we march along on the others as well, keep them on the radar. Just a thought, I know we have so many priorities and so many moving areas that we would want to march along all of those, but that in terms of achievability, that may give us more focus. And if you look at those, some has been challenging to keep up because of our bandwidth or overall town's capacity and of the sort. So something to think about, that can we make a priority order in some ways, that way, or just focus order. I wouldn't say priority order, because in our mind those are all equally important in many cases. So I'll stop there, and this is just the beginning of the discussion. Can we frame it and then put it in our overarching goals?
Okay. Did you have some questions?
No, it's a lot of work. I was just going to say, it looks good work.
We have a lot of goals, like Shadil said, and we were going to bundle them and put them into 4 or 5 pockets or something.
Yeah, they're bundled. Yeah.
So, but was that my action item, or I can't remember?
No, they've been bundled.
Oh, was it in our packet?
Yes, in fact, I think we looked at this, Elaine, recently. I think the board, at the end of the discussion, identified 3 or 4 overarching goals. So that was done.
Have we seen it in writing?
We haven't seen the
minutes.
It's in the minutes.
It's in the minutes, yes.
I can...
I would love to have a document that we could refer to. I'll save it on my computer. So it's in one of the minutes from... Okay. Do you remember what meeting that was?
in one of the...
It was following the, it had to be September. It was following our summer meeting. Let's see if I can.
Yeah. In fact, I can read them out.
But reading is hard.
Oh, sorry.
So
what
basically,
date?
I would really like a piece of the
document.
document.
Yeah, we'll send the document.
Okay. Well, what date was it at the meeting? Or what minutes are you looking at?
I was not looking at the minutes. I copied them from
Oh, you copied them from the minutes. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So they're somewhere in the September minutes. Okay, I will look for them.
Yeah, I remember we discussed it, so it's great we have it in the minutes.
Yep.
Maybe we can
Yep.
initiate that.
So what are best next steps, really briefly, because we're kind of behind?
Yeah, I know. So I think next best, as I'm hearing, maybe we take that, some homework, and reflect that on our 10, 11 goals and see if we can
It's really only 3 or 4.
Right.
It's only a couple. We intentionally bundled them together.
I remember we did that. I haven't, like Amy, it's been a while. So
Yeah, since we
let's
looked at it,
refresh that. If that's already done, then I think the next step would be, if you like this structure, putting it in this structure and add a little more specificity in terms of making them smart, actionable, and measurable. So some KPIs at the end. And if we do that, I think that's the framework we can start working off of.
It's a lot of detail to write out. Like I'm worried it's a little bit too much. But maybe we could try it with one of the goals and see. I don't know.
Yeah, I gave an example of one goal, but and the content almost was taken from the existing goal. So content-wise, I think it's this one is at least similar, and I have tried out a few others. I can send those out too, just to stir up the thoughts. Where I think the new additions will be more, what are the exact actions we are anticipating, and what are the KPIs that we think would help us measure the success.
I'm just not a big fan of the SMART goals myself, but if you guys want to try it, that's fine.
You're thinking it would be too big, or what is the concern?
It seems like a very long and a lot of detail, and I don't know. I thought I heard SMART goals were kind of going out of fashion. There was some new successor to SMART goals, and I can't remember what it's called though. That they were doing. So
yeah. So if you,
I don't want to micromanage. That's the thing. Yeah.
So I have a tendency to really like SMART goals, just in terms of not necessarily a ton of detail, but to actually time bound a specific goal, time bound with reporting, I think is pretty cool and necessary. But I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Maybe we write it out for a couple of the goals and then...
I found them, by the way.
Oh, great.
Yeah. These are my notes before the meeting. So we combined them, and I'm going to send this to everybody. They are the strategic plan, captured a lot of the goals that we had talked about. The financial stability and economic development captured several of the priorities that we discussed. Promoting sustainable, high-quality services and quality of life for residents was the third. Is that what you're seeing? Are you laughing at me?
No.
Oh,
I'm doing research and I keep finding here the overarching goals, but I'm not finding the
What they
date of-
actually are.
No, I know what they are, but the date of the
Oh, I
meeting.
see.
Yeah.
Well, Miriam has it. So when did you?
So this was when we discussed the summation of the feedback. No, we did that compilation of, it's September for sure.
September.
Yeah, maybe August, but I think it's September. Well, if we could search the website for minutes, we could probably.
Try the new Laserfish, right?
If that was a thing that was possible. I'll at least send you what started the conversation, and we all kind of coalesced around it, whether it was exactly the writing that.
Yeah, if you can send those, and I think we can.
Do you have it, or can we find minutes?
Well, we should look for it in the minutes too, but.
We'll talk later? Okay. He had his hand up earlier.
Oh, okay. Let's move to the town manager report. Gotta stay alert.
Yes. Main Street Corridor project. We provided an update from Dave and Michelle, and clearly the project is winding down for the winter. We did receive today from Amy some of the items we absolutely need to address ahead of the project shutting down for the winter. We have also received similar comments from some members of the public. In fact, there are members of the public who have walked the corridor and provided us with a punch list of items.
That's what I did.
Yes.
Yeah, I walked the
And
corridor.
pictures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pictures. I took pictures.
Yeah. PFAS is, if any of you has been down to Fruit Street, the digging for the foundation for the filtration system is now in progress. We're also working on a press release that will let the public know that we have not forgotten about this project.
That's
We're
good.
working on it. We expect to complete it by next year in January. MWRA Southborough Interconnection Project. We have a scheduled meeting with Southborough on the 16th to initiate the IMA discussions. As you know, Pi Engineering is already working on the 30% design. There's also a technical meeting scheduled between Hopkinton and Southborough's technical teams. And then finally, wanted to bring the board up to speed in terms of the great effort by the Human Resources Department to initiate a conversation amongst employees and senior leaders on enhancing our benefits packages. We're looking at this as investing in employees, investing in service delivery, and when all of this works well together, we will maintain our quality services and we'll also be able to retain our employees. The effort that we're making is focusing also not just on current employees but also on retirees. The package that we're looking at includes vacation schedules, coverage for domestic partners via insurance, and then sick bank. We're realizing post-COVID that in instances where employees are requiring more sick time than they may have in their package. And then paid parental leave. We also want to revise the working remote policy. We are considering a health insurance opt-out stipend. This has come up in multiple fora. And then also enhancing our mental health coverage. We want to increase the all One Health EAP visits from 3 to 6, and then retiree Medicare supplemental eye exam coverage. We want to add that to our insurance coverage for retirees. And then also investigate opportunities for corporate card access, specifically to deal with inflation and rising cost of living.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Mr. Fano.
Yeah, thank you, Norma. The only question I have is on the employee benefit enhancements. Is that something that's already assumed on the budget? Or do you think it'll be a new ask?
There are creative ways of getting there. Obviously, yes, there will be financial impact. We have not fully assessed that, and we will only implement if
and we want to do the best for our employees, of course. We appreciate the service and we want to retain the talents. So totally supportive of that. We just need to find the money when we get there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I sent all my questions this morning, so I think I'm good.
Okay.
So, the PFAS, so they're digging, so we don't have, you're going to send a press release?
Yes, we'll do a press release.
Yeah. All right. How about...
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask for the next action item, the next agenda item. Did you have a question on this one still?
Just one quick question. I know we had a good update on from the DPW Deputy Director, and something just in the back of my mind. I know I appreciate how they are communicating and sending out, through various media and emails, and I'm kind of worried that people are still in somewhat uncertainty. So, and I fully appreciate the challenge that we are in, but something to think about, how can we, do it a little more or manage it a little bit differently so it becomes more predictable in some ways. And if there is, variability because of just the setup or the nature of the problem, that's also understandable. It's getting hard on people here a lot. So I know we all appreciate it, but something I keep coming back to it because it'll be a good way to say, hey, this is for this time and these are the things that we're doing and will be done by then. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, in fact, I had an extended discussion with Kerry this morning. The approach is twofold. The first piece is addressing the issue directly with the community. So we're looking at how we communicate, what we communicate, when, and what methods we can use to make sure that we reach out to as many people as we can. So that's the PR side. There's then the technical side. Technical side, what we're realizing is this is an issue that requires some technical expertise beyond what we have in-house. So we are now inviting engineering companies that deal with this regularly to submit proposals. And from those proposals, we have a very clear definition regarding here's the plan forward. We're looking for a long-term plan or solution. At this point, we don't know what that solution is. So I'm with you because people are saying, when will this end? We don't have an answer to that.
Right, yeah. No, I understand. And do you feel you have all the special experts that you might need to solve the problem or look at it from a long-term perspective? See, the other worry is, even if it's solved this time, is it going to happen in a month again or 3 months again? That's the reason I asked that question.
Yeah, no, good point. We're raising the same question with VHP. I believe she's working with Western and Samson. Could be Western and Samson. How do we resolve this short, medium term? How do we resolve this long term? And clearly, there are many factors that come. There's also, I think we've heard from Mary about the age of some of our piping.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very old.
Very old.
It's very old.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But again, our concern is the scale at which this is happening now.
All right. Do we have any liaison reports?
Yeah, I do. Particularly when I'm looking at this future items, cemetery commission rate changes. Well, that came up earlier, and I had a very long discussion with Tommy Pratt, and they did raise the rates last year. They did a study from all the surrounding towns, and we're up to equity with everybody. And they would not like to raise the rates again. It's a very difficult time for people, and they're just right in there with all the other surrounding towns, and I think that's where they should be.
Okay, so we could probably take it off, take our future agenda?
Yeah, we've done it. And,
Perfect.
I had a couple items I was going to bring up. So the green,
Are you done?
No, I have one more.
Sure.
Okay. I talked to Sue Curies, and the other one is the Tax Relief Committee, and they're in a difficult position right now because they have lost one of their biggest supporters, or they think they have. They haven't heard from them or anything, and it was questionable last year. And then this year, their number for the marathon didn't come through. So they're down quite a bit of money, and they're not allowed to solicit, so that's my report.
Are we allowed to solicit as individuals?
They can't solicit.
No, but can we, can we mention it to our friends and neighbors?
That's very questionable.
That's questionable too.
Yeah.
It's an interesting...
I mean, we could tell, all I think we could do is like what I'm doing tonight, is just telling people this happened, and that's it. So if you are inclined to.
Yeah. On a similar note, Mary Jo, we talked about, formulating if there is a way to provide tax relief for certain population from school taxes or from certain infrastructure taxes. Is that something we got a chance to explore? Or
I'm exploring it now with the legislature.
Excellent.
Okay, Amy.
I just wanted to note the Green Committee is having a climate action drop-in session tomorrow from 6 to 9 at the Senior Center, so I'm going to go to that.
Who is this?
The Green Committee.
Oh, okay.
And they'll talk about their article for town meeting too, so if people had questions about that, they can go.
That's tomorrow night.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Yep, and the Cultural Council yesterday, they had the unveiling of the 5 new mural panels at EMC Park, so I'd remind everybody to take a drive-by or walk by and see them. They're very nice. And the Art on the Trail is opening Thursday evening this week, I think, at 6. So that's another one, if you can't go at 6, you can go see it at any time this month.
They have 2 on the calendar, though. They have one on a Sunday. So is it like out on the trail and then it ends, or
I thought it went for about a month.
Yeah, I know. And I was going on Thursday, but then I saw it on a Sunday out on the trail, too. So I was like...
I'll look back at that then. And then I've had several people ask me when we're going to send out the marathon bib policy, and I think we've done that in November typically. Is that right?
In fact, the chair and I had a discussion on this topic earlier or late last week. We have not yet heard from the BAA.
Okay.
As soon as we hear from the BAA, then...
So the next person that asks me, I will say...
All the BAA.
Yeah.
No. But I'll say that we're waiting on a step. It's usually been November.
Yes, we're hoping that this will be on the agenda at the next meeting.
On that note, can I just make a quick comment? Last time we did lottery. Is that the way we are going to do it this year, or we'll have a criteria and a...
Well, we usually vote on the policy.
Yes, the board will set the policy.
Okay.
Most likely at your next meeting.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
And then we got an invite to Diwali for Legacy Farms North, and because of space constraints, only one of us can attend. So I
I was not able to go, and I passed the invitation off to Shahadul,
and I went last year, so
he is able to go.
I'm planning to go.
Okay, perfect. And you'll see your RSVP. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. We have a couple, but no. One is, it was really exciting to see the ceramic studio opening.
Yeah.
Randy
was there with you, yeah.
So they have a nice new location, the HCA, and wonderfully equipped. So very excited to see that. Legacy Farm Diwali, that's November 11th at Kiftake. That Amy just was talking about. And there is another such event. They're hosting their yearly festival event. It's called Rhythms and Ragas on October, I have the date somewhere here. I'll find the date. Oh, there it is. I find location, the entire program. It's in the coming weeks, so
maybe they
stay
haven't
tuned
set
for
the date?
that.
Okay.
They have, but not in this, not anywho.
Coming up soon.
Next few weeks, yeah.
Okay.
Then ESBC has a bunch of public forum coming. The next one is actually tomorrow with Moms Group discussion at the library at 7 p.m. Then Sustainable Green Committee open house. That's also tomorrow at 6 p.m. And 10:17 at the Legacy Farms Community at Faith Community Church.
Nice.
And another one, I think, on the 24th. So they are
Going around town, yeah.
going out and
Yeah, good for them. That's awesome. Okay.
Oh, I forgot the fire department open house is this weekend too. There's a lot going on.
yeah.
That's fun. I think
Is that on Sunday?
I think so. Hold on.
Saturday.
Sunday 11 to 2.
Sunday, yeah.
Okay. All right, so lots of things to go to.
Yeah, a ton to go to.
11:30 or 11?
I wrote 11 to 2.
11.
Okay, so for the 10:17 meeting, do you want to continue the discussion of strategic planning instead of the moving on to the other item?
Sure.
Okay. Yep. And so I'll put this TBD, but I'm making a focused effort not to keep a long list, but to get through them.
And you'll send us the goals that we.
I did. I should already have them. And that was the basis of the discussion, and they didn't vary too much.
I got it.
Yeah. What I'll also do,
But you might want to look at the minutes.
yeah. What I'll also do is send out a few examples from other
Oh,
towns
that's a great idea.
that use this framework.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And then if you think of that other new and fashioned goal-setting schema, let us know.
That's okay.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I know. For those of us who make our living in doing this, it's like, what? You're not a believer? What? Okay. And then if the police department is ready and the school department is ready, we'll have the SRO conversation on the 17th.
Next week?
Oh, yeah, is that next week? That's right, wow. And also an update on the vendor and the structure of the report for the police department review.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. Okay, and then just for the public's information, we did have a hearing set for tomorrow night that has been postponed, and we don't have a date for when it would be postponed.
And that was still on the calendar last I looked. Did we remove it from the town calendar?
Oh.
But that was over the long weekend. It says cancel now. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Anything else? I will entertain that favorite motion of the night.
Madam Chair, I move the agenda meeting tonight.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thanks, everybody. Awesome. Mr. Malo, thank you for the really comprehensive good work on the budget messaging. It's a lot to pull together.
It's a lot to put together, yes.
It was a great team effort. A lot of people put